Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, February 16th, 2023, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. And I am back. I had a cold over the last, pretty much almost a week now, but I'm finally back. And joining me today, we firstly have Clark Taylor, who's done a fantastic job hosting over the last 5 days or however long it's been. Hello, Clark. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and I really appreciate you saying that. But don't leave out. I learned to produce for the first time too, and I'm actually just kind of stoked. I don't have to do the camera cuts today. To be totally honest, it's nice to be back on the other side. I'll be back hosting again, I'm sure soon. But it was a blast. I'm stoked to hear that you're no longer cold. You're warm now. We've got a warm Ben back in the building, ready to go. We got a good set of topics today. We're gonna go extra time just for the fans because we got the big man back in town. The boys are back in town. It doesn't get any better than this. So I'm just stoked to be here on a fabulous Thursday.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Clark said, it is a stacked episode today. And we're going to be getting into our honest and raw thoughts about last night's AEW Dynamite. But also joining me today, we have Anthony Ricciardi. How are you, Anthony?
I'm doing all right. It's good to see you back. I guess Kobe can shut down the GoFundMe for your illness. I knew you would like that, Clark. But I'm looking forward to the show.
You can't just do that.
What about you? We're joined by Soul as well today. How are you, Soul?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the Daily Broadcast. I am your MVP of the Republic, Soul, as always. And welcome back, Shaggers. We're back again. I'm here, pissed off my tits, ready for another one because I am the MVP of the Republic.
Self-appointed.
I am the best thing going. The boss man's back, so our takeover's done. We'll be climbing away back to our developmental brand and building ourselves up to the never takeover. But hey, welcome back, boss man.
Oh, this show's either going to be the most entertaining thing you've ever watched or absolute chaos, but you're going to have to watch to find out. But
no, we've got Chaos on Chaos is on with me on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some good shows.
I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That was terrible.
But first things first, let's get into AEW Dynamite from last night. And let's firstly talk about MJF and Bryan Danielson, their feud, which has been going on for the last few months now. So AEW last night aired a backstage promo from Bryan Danielson from the doctor's office following the attack on him last week, with Danielson claiming the attack was, basically proved that MJF is actually scared of him, which, I mean, isn't really a surprise. The entire story is MJF scared of everyone anyway, but then ends up beating them. But yeah, while this crowd certainly was not the loudest Dynamite crowd that we've seen in recent times, they were almost deafening once MJF came out. You could barely even hear his promo over the boos that he was getting. Not even the Acclaimed got that reaction. It did really surprise me, but one thing is for sure, and that is MJF really does seem like a star when he's in that ring. But MJF cut a solid promo and invited out Christopher Daniels. And came out and revealed that MJF tried paying him off to, talk dirty about Danielson's in-ring ability. And then basically said that he refused the payment and handed it back to MJF and said that basically MJF's got no chance at Revolution and Bryan Danielson's going to win. MJF then quite predictably took out Daniels. But this next part I actually really did enjoy, and that was that I basically just showed a big cheer from the crowd, and out came running out Danielson. And of course, MJF had the armbar locked in, and he was facing the other way. Now, MJF, though, of course, he likes to come across very smart. As soon as he heard that crowd reaction, he didn't see Danielson. He just heard that reaction. And like most wrestlers, acting dumb in that situation or whatever, he got up and went out. He didn't even look behind him to check it was Danielson. He just ran and got out of there really quickly. And I really, really did like that little touch. But truthfully, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know what it is. But out of all MJF's long-term storyline so far, this one with Bryan Danielson's actually my least favorite, I think. But what do you think about it all, Clark?
I agree with a lot of what you said, and disagree with very little. I would say the biggest thing for me about last night that I did enjoy was I think it was actually Danielson's best promo, even from the doctor's office, especially if you're a longtime Bryan Danielson fan, knowing his history with having to be medically cleared to wrestle. That's kind of a sensitive spot, and to cut that impassioned promo about MJF being scared, the timing was good, but I do believe that the build to that promo specifically is why you expressed your opinion about this one being your least favorite. I think it's been the most telegraphed thus far of the MJF stories. Now, does that mean I'm not excited to see if Bryan and MJF can put on something special for 60 minutes? Absolutely not. No, I'm 100% looking forward to that match, and I think it can be really, really, really high quality. MJF's promo and Smarts, to your point last night, I thought were awesome. I will also point out one more thing. It takes somebody that really, really knows what they're doing to stand on the other side of MJF and make it a good back and forth segment. And Christopher Daniels deserves credit for the job that he did on the other side of the microphone opposite MJF last night. And I think that's what made that promo segment. And that's really hard to do, especially with somebody as skilled on the mic as MJF.
What about you, Anthony? What were your thoughts on the segment?
I mean, I agree with Clark. Christopher Daniels is one of those guys that's been around for so long, but it's kind of really underappreciated in just how good he really is. The MJF is always phenomenal on the mic. He's the closest that anybody has come to equal the heat of Piper from back in the day. The one thing with this feud, I feel like they're going the heated route with it, which really I don't think necessarily fits the whole Iron Man stipulation. Like, I get where they're going with it. They want to expose MJF as a better in-ring talent and not just a mic guy. But I almost think this match, the build-up for it, would probably fit better with an I Quit match, to be honest. I mean, you could still go long, but still have that submission aspect to it. Bryan, the injury, MJF being afraid of him being a submission guy. I think an I Quit probably would have fit this better than an Iron Man, personally.
Yeah, I do agree. It doesn't always make sense really in this storyline why, and it never really has, why they're doing it for 60 minutes. I mean, I guess it's Danielson trying to say, you can't last 60 minutes with me. But
I've definitely viewed it. I think Bryan views the 60 minutes idea as his signature match. You think about him going 60 with Kenny. I think he looks at Bryan, and this may be even personal to Bryan. I don't know if it lands with the fans, and I didn't mean to cut you guys off on this, but maybe even, but the way I view it, I think Bryan looks at the 60-minute Iron match as that's his dome. He is the best choice of anybody available to work a 60-minute Iron Man. So it's almost like that's the home field advantage for Bryan. That's the way I viewed it, but I do hear where you're coming from on that, Ben. Right? It's like you're coming into my house. We're going to go all 60, not just 10, not just 15. We're going an hour.
I'd usually completely agree with you, apart from I don't think he's won a single one of them in AEW, is he?
Ironically, I would agree with you on that in AEW, but I think kind of Lifetime, maybe, I don't know facts and info-wise, but I would assume maybe in ROH or on Indie he has. But the way he talks about the 60-minute Iron Man match and the way he talks about going 60 minutes in general often, I think it's a little bit, and I think it's been undersold to your point, but it's a little bit like Taker, Hell in the Cell, a little bit like, right? Like a Bret Hart or a Kurt Angle in a submission match.
Yeah.
Something, I think that's the reason, because even in the initial promo is the one that sold it for me. Bryan talked about, you want to cheat, you want to do this, talked about no disqualification and all this stuff, and then went to, we're going to do it my way. And that's when he presented the 60-minute Iron Man match. So I think, to your point too, though, I agree. I don't think they've done a good enough job of, this is MJF coming into Bryan's house.
Yeah.
Which is the 60-minute coming into his domain. And I think that's closer to the story that needs to be told.
Yeah. And also just Danielson just not made it his house. You need to be winning them if that's, you want to be the Taker of Hell in a Cell or whatever. True. But yeah, Anthony?
Hey, Sean still missed WrestleMania.
According to Cage Match, Bryan Danielson wrestled 2 Iron Man match, official ones. They were 30 minutes each. First one, he lost to Claudio. Christopher Daniels was in that as well for some company, CAPW. And Ring of Honor, he wrestled 1. He beat Doug Williams.
Gotcha. So I will clarify this too. I think it's more about the 60 minutes than necessarily the Iron Man stipulation. The Iron Man stipulation is the only way to guarantee it goes 60. And that's why it's the 60 minutes aspect is where it's Brian's house.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the more I think about it,
so that, but I thank you, Anthony, by the way, too, like on that. And then the only other thing I would add to that when it comes to this, and this is the last thing, because I know Soul's ready to go on this too, but I do think the cardio thing is the story that hasn't been told. Yeah. MJF hasn't told that part of the story, and that might actually, for the first time ever, be on MJF, because that should be in these promos. How he can go 60 and how it's about him being able to go 60 and hang with a guy that we all know can go 60.
I mean, part of me now thinks that perhaps it's deliberate that MJF's not actually saying that. And maybe that's why MJF was so happy for that stipulation to be in place. Because despite the fact that Danielson likes the idea of going 60 minutes.
Right.
He's only won once going 60 minutes.
Now, I'll say this, though, to your point on that, Shawn Michaels is 6-11 all time at WrestleMania.
That's true.
And there's no doubt in my mind, Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania. 6-11 ain't very good.
Win or lose, he didn't need to.
Yeah.
He was the match of the night.
So,
the match of the night.
Every time. And I mean, you look at even how many tables matches the Dudleys lost. The Dudleys had an under 500 record in tables matches in the WWE. And so that's an easy connection to make there, but I would still say 60 minutes is probably Brian's house at this point.
Taker doesn't have a great record in Hell in a Cell or Buried Alive either, and they're considered his matches.
Even Cactus match, or even he lost a casket match to Kane.
But what are your thoughts on all of this, Sol?
As you know, the intellectual here with the university degree to put you all to shame, I'll educate you on this.
Cardiologist.
What we're seeing here, this is a proving point for MJF. MJF, we all know he's a big guy in the mic and everything like that, but as a wrestler, some people don't have faith in him. If you're Bryan Danielson, considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and you want to prove that point, and you feel like you've got a cocky heel champion that you want to test him in itself, why wouldn't you do an Iron Man match? This is something that helps prove it. So with this is Bryan basically saying to the champion, I think you're chicken shit. I don't think you're a good wrestler. I'm considered the best wrestler in the world. So let's prove it on the stage, on the main event of the pay-per-view in an Iron Man match. You test your limit. You test your physicality. You test your cardio. You test your resilience. You test every single asset that needs to be the wrestler. Hey, if MJF wins this and comes out with his life, I highly expect him to say, I am now the best wrestler in the world or something like that. Take Danielson's self-proclaimed moniker by the fans and make it his own, because yes, if you technically beat the best in the world in an Iron Man match, these grueling tests of feats for wrestlers, hell yeah, put yourself as, the best wrestler in the world. And going back to as well, Christopher Danielson, phenomenal doing his work there. I mean, I know why MJF got booed the shit out by the crowd, because I heard the fight feed, if he gets in trouble for that, I will highly expect him to. It was very dicey. But hey, look, going back to Danielson and MJF, I am all for this. This is going to be, as I said before, a proving point for MJF, because think about it, if you're on that roster and you see MJF last 60 minutes with Bryan Danielson, who many on the roster we've heard in interviews and even in storylines say, he's someone I look up to, childhood icon. Your childhood icon has just been bested in one of the most grueling match types by that chicken shit. You'd be worried about facing the champion.
Fair enough.
Heavy words there, my friend.
Yeah,
I like
that.
Like
you were giving us a promo.
Snug. That was
some
snug.
Great points. You really, really did there. And I mean, yeah, there's a few. They have a few more weeks until Revolution. That is the truth behind it. They have a few more weeks. They can build this up more. So far, it's been the point of Danielson, getting to the point where he officially gets the match. He's got the match now. So yeah, they have a few weeks to build it up, but they need to make it a lot more personal. And they need to make it feel slightly more important, because so far this storyline has been so predictable. It's gone the exact way everyone thought it was going to be, and it's been similar to every MJF story so far. And yeah, I'm just hoping they add a bit of spice in the next few weeks, but they do have the time to do that. They have a few weeks to sell pay-per-views, all of that stuff. So it's not a matter of urgency currently. Now, we have Melissa in the comments saying, hey, hello, welcome to today's show. And if you're watching this, then please feel free to leave more comments, guys, today. We will be answering them throughout the show. Now, on to the next topic, and that is one of the next segments on the show last night, and that was the build to Hangman versus Moxley. I think 3 now. And yeah, basically the show, towards the start of the show, I think it was the second match of the show, Jon Moxley and Claudio defeated Roosh and Preston Vance in a fairly decent, it was definitely match of the night for me, Texas Tornado tag match, but it went a little too long for my liking, in all honesty. And Moxley once again bladed. It was so obvious this week. I actually am a fan usually of Blood and Wrestling, but it's ridiculous now. Moxley's doing it every single week. It's really starting to frustrate me. It's lost all meaning behind it. And it's almost embarrassing if I'm being completely honest. And last night it looked like it was a bad blade job too. It was so obvious. But anyway, after that, later in the night, Hangman Page defeated Kip Sabian in a short match, which was nothing really special. And then Hangman and Moxley got face-to-face with the Blackpool Combat Club in the corner of Moxley. And Hangman talked about how, neither of them were happy about the fact that the match ended in a roll-up, which means understandable, but at the end of the day, it is a wrestling hold. I didn't completely get that. And then Moxley claimed Hangman had no friends before Evil Uno and the Dark Order came out. Now, Hangman is still seemingly embarrassed to have the Dark Order as his friends, so he tried to stop them peacefully coming into the ring. It wasn't like they were trying to attack the BCC, but Dark Order got into the ring. Hangman tried to stop Evil Uno. Evil Uno finally grew some balls and pushed Hangman out of the way and got into the face of Jon Moxley. And I actually loved this. I loved the fact that finally Evil Uno didn't just look like some comedy act. He got in the face of Jon Moxley and really seemed like a badass. I was talking a lot about this episode, but I actually really loved this part. Evil Uno looked great and didn't seem like a total idiot for the first time in a few years almost at this point. But yeah, apart from that, these two matches when I wasn't a huge fan of the bladings starting to annoy me. And yeah, we're going to see this again at Revolution, it looks like. What are your thoughts on it all, Anthony?
That's the thing. Moxley, and I know this may not be a popular opinion with this stuff, but honestly, Moxley, again, like you said, over blades. When you do a blade job in a match, it's supposed to serve a purpose. Whether it's a heated rivalry where it would justify it and adds to the story, or if it's a match like a cage match or something like that where it would make sense. He blades for every match. And like you said, it loses all its meaning and it's become a joke. And why they continue to allow him to do it, I don't understand why they're doing that. Why they're letting him go, you just blade any match. It's a mistake. The Dark Order, I'm kind of surprised they're still a thing, to be honest, because they've been a joke for quite a long time now. And it's reminiscent of the oddities in WWF back in '99, a joke act. So it was a little surprising when Evil Uno showed some balls with that promo. The Hangman Moxley feud, I do like the heated aspect of it. They got the personal thing, Hangman got injured in the match. So it makes sense. It's heated. They're actually going into a hardcore type match, which would make sense for Moxley to bleed in that match. Not before it, but, he'll do it anyway. That's my only problem. If it loses meaning, don't do it. It's just embarrassing at that point.
Yeah, no, like you said, it is very heated between the two, and I'm enjoying that. And truthfully, I've enjoyed pretty much all the matches in the feud so far as well. So I'm excited for Revolution. But yeah, what about you, Saul? What are your thoughts on it all?
I love this. Absolutely. It's enjoyable. I love it. Moxley bleeding too much. I see it as this is Moxley, he's not Dean Ambrose anymore. This is the man that will put himself through the ringer and Heck, if his body has to break down to get that pin, that's what kind of man Moxley is. He will take himself to the extreme to, even put his body on the line and bleed as much as he can to get that win. That's Moxley. But the whole thing with Hangman as well, I love it. Two favorite wrestlers of mine going at it for a third time at Revolution in a Texas death match. We've seen Hangman in the Texas death matches against Adam Cole and Lance Archer. Moxley did one against Lance Archer as well. And I've seen people be like, why, the whole thing with Dark Order, why would they be pissed off at the BCC? Well, as I've always said before, you take anyone in the AEW roster, throw them on a dartboard, there will be a spider chart connecting them to the most people on the roster. Where does Evil Uno fit in? And Dark Order? Simple. Take Moxley. Moxley, had a great feud with Mr. Brody Lee during the pandemic era. Broke Preston Vance's arm. Stuff happened there as well. The whole match at Double or Nothing. Then look at Bryan Danielson, a member of the BCC as well. He went through Colt Cabana, Alan Angels, and Evil Uno for his thing going to Hangman Page. And Claudio, not so much, but still, that's a strong connection to why Evil Uno would hate the BCC as well as all the other members of Dark Orders and Reynolds and Silver. So we're going to get Moxley and Evil Uno next week at Dynamite. I'm excited for that. I like the Dark Order. I find them very entertaining. The whole time on them on BTE during the pandemic was some of the most entertaining stuff I had seen. Probably still one of my favorite stuff I've seen in wrestling. And yeah, I'm absolutely banging off the walls to see this match of Revolution between Moxley and Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah, I do understand the view of Moxley bleeding, as it makes him look like a badass, makes him look like he's can get through anything, and that's what he wants to do. But every single match, it's like, why is nobody else? Why isn't everyone else bleeding then? If everyone bleeds that easily, it's too much. A few times, like for example, the Becky Lynch situation a couple of years ago when you saw her at the top of the ramp with a bleeding face. That was fantastic. Obviously, that was real blood.
It was a hard way by Nia. Yeah.
Yeah, I say real blood. Of course, last night was real blood too, but you know what I mean. It wasn't a blading job.
It was the hard way.
Yeah. But even still, some blood when it's done right in wrestling can be fantastic. But
I'll say right now, I personally love the whole bleeding thing with Preston Vance. That made Preston look awesome.
What do you think, then, Clark?
Let me go on this. So I've been in agreement with you guys on the Moxley bleeding too often thing, and it has to mean something. But I've also racked my brain on Moxley's such a talented wrestler. There might be something to it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I'm the mark in this situation. And I really thought about it today. And I thought about, you can look historically at Bruiser Brody's forehead, Dusty Rhodes' forehead, Abdullah the Butcher's forehead, heck, Mick Foley's forehead. And there's plenty of guys that bleed plenty often. Onita, I can't remember the last match he wrestled. He didn't bleed in. Now, do we know that they're bleeding? Yes, we do. But I'll also point to parallel combat sport, mixed martial arts. Nate Diaz has bled in matches and in fights his whole career. And when you develop scar tissue on your forehead or scar tissue anywhere, scar tissue is weaker skin than your normal skin. So you're more likely to bleed. So I'll point to the promo in TNA between Flair and Foley, where they both punch themselves in the face and bust themselves open without a blade. Hard way. That's because of years of scar tissue and years of cuts. And I will say this, Jon Moxley, being the blue-eyed battler and the ultimate fighter that he is, that's his persona. He is the ultimate fighter's fighter. That's what he is as a pro wrestler. He will fight till someone makes him stop or he can't anymore. And for that guy to bleed all the time, I kind of get it. And when I look at it that way, it happens in boxing all the time. The people that are the aggressors, that are pressure fighters, that are willing to take punches on the way in. They joke about playing defense with your forehead because you'll take some punches to get your own. That's the type of guy that Moxley is. He's going to take shots. He doesn't play any defense in the wrestling ring. Like MJF rolling out of the ring earlier in the show, Mox wouldn't do that. He'd stay right there and keep fighting. Doesn't matter the numbers, doesn't matter anything else. And I think the blood fits it well enough. Now, when it comes to the blading aspect and the professional wrestling aspect and the meaningfulness of it, I do understand that part. But I think we're overlooking his true character and persona as a fighter. It fits. And if you have that much scar tissue on your forehead, you cut real easy. And so it does make sense for you to bleed. The more often you bleed, the more often you bleed. That's a fact. So it does make sense for him to continue bleeding because he's got scar tissue on his forehead from all of these cuts, from being busted open all of these times. And over time, that makes it easier to be cut. And so that part of the story in and of itself is actually better told than I think we've realized, because there's this auto complaint about, why does he bleed every week? It's like, well, we Terry Funk bleeds almost every other match back in the 90s. When's the last time you watched a Terry Funk classic he didn't bleed in? And I do think in a way it's a little unfair to Moxley coming from WWE the way he did, and the way that blading in recent years has kind of been under a microscope, given some controversies like Batista and Jericho and what's gone down with that. I think it's unfair to Mox. I really do. Just because we know doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense, I guess is what I would say. Doesn't mean you can't suspend disbelief, because we do it in other scenarios and we do it all the time as fans.
That's great. Some great points you made there. The only thing I will come back to is the scar tissue point, which you made, is fantastic. But still, at least a couple more people on the roster, you'd say, would have that same scar tissue.
You would think same problem. Same problem. I agree with you on that. I totally agree there. For continuity, especially. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Anthony?
Well, in all fairness, a lot of those guys, Terry Funk, Brody, Foley, most of the time when they bled, they were in hardcore matches. Moxley is bleeding in just regular matches. If they're not hardcore, if it's a hardcore match, okay, I get that. I don't get a tag match, you're bleeding.
Flair bled in quite a few non-hardcore matches, and so did Dusty. I would argue with you there.
No, I know, but for the most part, they weren't bleeding in every match.
Some of the names I mentioned for sure, but I mean, not all our historical bleeders have been doing it in weapon-related matches, right?
I just mean not in every match. Like, it seems like Moxley's doing it in every one. I
don't know. Moxley's forehead's never going to look like some of those legends we've seen, man. Unless he does this, I guess. Right?
I guess we'll find out at the Evil Luna match next week and see.
You know what I mean, Anthony?
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Like, it's like those things are, I mean, that, like, Dusty, rest in peace, but his forehead looked like ground hamburger.
Well, there's the Brody figure that you and I have.
It's one of my favorite. It literally looks like just like,
part, because
it's like a shark bit his forehead.
Yeah.
Well, MJF last night paid off Christopher Daniels, and Clark is paying off my girlfriend to ask if he's single, apparently.
Yes, Melissa, thank you. For all the other female fans out there, yes, totally. Thank you, Melissa.
We
needed that monster shout out, Melissa. Yeah, absolutely.
Why would they not go for the MVP with the public? I mean, hey.
Just saying. The fans are asking,
Look, Clark, careful there, but you might get released.
The fans are asking. Their fans are clamoring.
Oh, gosh. Right, let's get into the next match on AEW Dynamite, and that was the main event of the evening, and that was when Ruby Soho defeated Toni Storm and Britt Baker, and the crowd were not into this match in the slightest. It was one of the weaker Dynamite main events as of recent, in my opinion, and while I am happy that the women's division is, getting more TV time, and more people are being showcased on the show, this storyline just is a bit of a mess, and too many people just seem to be involved at this point, with not enough TV time to explain why they're all involved. Once this story continues to develop, which I'm sure it will, it could well be main event worthy, but this was just far too early in the feud for it to be a main event. And another issue I had with this, and this was quite a big issue for me, was that Jamie Hayter was just standing at ringside with the championship. It looked like she was just holding it for Britt almost. She didn't come across like a champion at all. Your champion should not be there at ringside being a cheerleader. If you're going to have them do something like that, come out there to support somebody, they should be on commentary. There's a reason WWE doesn't have their World Heavyweight Champion standing at ringside, for example, Roman Reigns supporting Solo Sikoa, standing at ringside like that. At the very, most, have them on commentary. Having her standing there made her look like she was just holding the title like Paul Heyman does for Reigns. Really, really did weaken the championship for me personally. And yeah, Jamie Hayter, I feel bad for her because she's super over. She's she's a great, great champion. But still, she feels like just Britt's friend. Like it still seems like Britt's more important than her. And I was not a fan of it at all with that element of it. But what did you think, Anthony?
I mean, the talent was there to have a decent match. I don't think they delivered. This is a storyline where they're doing the outsider originals versus the new people, and it's not really landing with me. I know what they're trying to do with it, or at least I think I know what they're trying to do with it. The freelancer name I thought I don't know who came up with that. That's brutally bad too. It was a weak main event, and it shouldn't have been, but it was.
Yeah. And especially and a lot of the reasons, I guess, why I'm so harsh towards this week's AEW Dynamite was because last week's was actually quite good, I thought. But what about you, Clark? What did you think?
Yeah, it was the most disappointing part of the night for me. I was less disappointed, I think, in the rest of the night than maybe you guys. The main event, yeah, it fell flat. I think the best point that you made, Ben, why in the world is Hayter not on commentary? Come on. And she's so over to introduce her to the television audience even further. It's just a missed opportunity. It was a whiff. And I didn't get that. It almost seemed like the match was booked on the fly, even though it was advertised. Right? Like that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like a main event. It didn't feel like the grand finale of Dynamite in any way, not at any moment, start to finish. And it's not about the talent in the ring. Ruby Soho, I love. Tony Storm's off the charts. I mean, Hayter not in the ring, and then Dr. Britt. Everyone knows I'm a big Dr. Britt fan. Like, how do they mess that up? I don't even think I don't know who they is there in this scenario, but I don't know that necessarily the women involved in the match were who messed it up. I just think maybe went out without a plan or were unsure. It just seemed convoluted the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to me, the best part of the actual match was Tony Schiavone on commentary saying that you should never trust somebody called Tony if it ends in an I. I mean, honestly, the commentators just joking amongst themselves. They wouldn't even call it the match. They were just joking amongst themselves. Was actually more interesting than the match. I'm just going to say it was a poor main event. It really was. I was not a fan of it from an in-ring standpoint. I was not entertained. It was weak. All three women were great, obviously, but they need none of them looked as good as they have done last night. It wasn't a match which was well produced. It's just not all on them. It wasn't produced well at all. It was done badly. But what are your thoughts on it, Sol? As I know you have a different opinion to all of us.
Where the hell do we freaking start? Christ. Right. People have been bitching and moaning that the women division in AEW hasn't been given main events of Dynamite. They've always been put on the second kind of co-main event or somewhere near the ad break. And then when you get the main event, everyone has a goddamn hissy fit. This doesn't mean it shouldn't have been the main event. It should have been this and this. If you want to give them a chance, give them a chance, all right? I mean, yeah, the match wasn't stellar. It was, mid. Honestly, it was mid. There were some bad elements to it, absolutely. But, if you're going to give them a chance, give them the main event. If it works out, it works out. But then don't bitch and moan and saying, oh, well, they shouldn't have done it. You should have put them back in the original spot. It's like, Jesus Christ, give them an actual chance. If you're going to bat for all this and change and all that, and then you're not going to stick around and actually support it, then don't even, virtual singular, just actually, support it in the end. But let's go on to this match, all right? There were some bad elements, right? Yeah, absolutely fine. I'm happy to agree with that. The whole spray paint on Tony's butt to do the whole hip attack, and then it didn't really work. Maybe we should have tested that out and see if it worked. I understand what they were going for, but it didn't work, right? Jamie Hayter at ringside. Okay, let's look right here. You go back to the history of Jamie and Britt, and even Rebel as well. They've always been a friendly group at ringside, always supporting each other. Even Britt during her at the title match between Tony and
Britt did a lot of commentary.
Yeah, Verders as well. But like, see there, right? She's like, you always say it's like, oh, Jamie should have been right on commentary and talking there. They've already got Taz, Schiavone, and Excalibur there. 3 people there. If you add a number 4th one there, it's going to get too messy voice-wise, right? Yeah, you could have said take one away, but that kind of disrupts the natural flow of commentary throughout the show. If you just chuck someone out and put someone in, it's disruptive, right? Jamie being there.
They do it every week. Every week they add a 4 for one of the matches.
Well, I'm saying for this one, it's different because that's the friendship relationship with Tony with Jamie and Britt. They've always been friendly and being at each other's side, close around their proximity, right? So that's what they're doing. And I don't think it diminishes Jamie here in any some bit, right? She's going out there with the championship and supporting her friend who's been a close ally since she's debuted this would be entirely different if there was some, opposite forces between them, right? There was hesitation, there was resistance, and they were always a bit on edge and all that. It's like, oh, you have the championship, but I was a champion and I should have the championship. No, they've been very supportive of each other. So yeah, was this the greatest main event of all time? No. Was it the shittest main event of all time? No. It was what it was. Hopefully the women get more main events as well, and I hope people don't bitch and moan about it in the future.
Here's the thing, and Clark did briefly mention it then. When Britt was champion, she was not at ringside with the championship while Jamie was in the ring wrestling. Britt was
when the roles were reversed, Britt was on commentary every time.
Yeah,
Rebel was at ringside.
Jamie, I think, is the only champion who's ever been at ringside for any of the matches with anyone. I'm pretty sure I can't remember another champion in AEW, a world champion. So whether that's the tag team champions, the men's champion or the women's champion who is stood at ringside during the match cheering somebody on. I can't remember.
Had they had some sort of encounter with her and Saraya that would have made more sense at ringside, I maybe would have understood it. But also with the way she was just carrying the belt there, like you said, she looked like a manager. Yeah. She looked like Paul Heyman carrying Roman's belt. It made no sense.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the belt feel secondary, and it really frustrated me because I'm a big Jamie fan. I think she's fantastic. Amazing. If I was I'm a fan of everyone involved in the segment. I just think it was produced awfully, which is not the fault of any of the women involved. But I was not a fan of this segment. Do you have anything else to add, Sol?
I just think people were overreacting pretty much as always. Just moaning and everything. But I mean, what we're going to get at Revolution is the deciding factor. I will say another thing I didn't agree with is the whole Ruby Soho ending. I finally forgetting the pin win, but not making a decision on who team she was. I didn't agree with that. She should have made a decision on who she was. So where does this lead for Revolution? Is Jamie and Britt and someone going to be teaming up against Saraya and Tony, or are we going to have another third person? This is going to be a debut. Is Mercedes Moné going to join Saraya and all that? Is Willow Nightingale or Penelope Ford or someone else going to join Britt and Jamie? I don't know. I would want a women's title match at Revolution. I feel like it would be a great thing for Jamie to showcase on a pay-per-view again. I just don't know where this is going. I don't think it's the shittest thing ever. I think there's worse things in WWE, honestly, right now. But hey, see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, you actually, I forgot to even say this. That was a great point you made about the ending. They built it all up for Ruby to make a decision in that second. And when she was about to make the decision, they just ended the show. It was really abrupt and it was weird. I do agree with you on that one. But now let's get into the final segment of the night. And this one is going to be a good one. I see quite a few people have just joined, and you've joined just at perfect timing there. And that is that Tony Khan has finally announced that ROH TV will start airing on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, with tapings taking place later this month from Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, otherwise known as the Old Impact Zone. Tony Khan originally said that Ring of Honor's TV return would be announced following Final Battle. However, following Final Battle, he revealed that it would be after New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom show, which made everyone think, well, wait a second, are New Japan going to be involved in the relaunch? New Japan Pro Wrestling then cancelled New Japan Strong, which of course is their United States show. So everyone was like, well, New Japan must be involved in the relaunch of Ring of Honor. However, a couple of days ago, New Japan announced that Strong will be rebooting and will be coming back very soon. And now, Ring of Honor has been announced on Honor Club. No links to New Japan at all, it seems. Whatever was going to happen between Ring of Honor and New Japan seems to have just completely fallen apart. And it comes down again. Everything about this new Ring of Honor so far has been an absolute disaster. It truly, truly has been. They wanted a TV. They spent a year trying to get a TV deal. And I know some people are saying they took a year to get a roster. No, they didn't. They basically had the same roster they had right at 9 months ago, more or less. They took a year to try and get a TV deal. They failed to get a TV deal. They then returned to Honor Club, which they already had. It's been a complete disaster. And the New Japan thing's completely flopped. And Anthony, I know you have quite a lot of thoughts on this, so I'm going to go straight to you straight away. What do you think about it all?
I mean, I've been a Ring of Honor fan for a long time. I signed up with Honor Club pretty close to the launch of it. It was a couple of months old when I signed up for it, and I kept it because you got all the pay-per-views included with it for the $9.99 a month, plus all the the back catalog stuff. The new Honor Club, okay, you're getting the back catalog, but you're not getting the pay-per-views, but you're still paying the same amount of money. I think that's a problem too, because WWE gives you the pay-per-views, Impact gives you the pay-per-views, except I think their big four are the only ones they don't include in, and the Impact one's actually cheaper than Honor Club. The biggest problem is I think Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor without a clear direction on what exactly he wanted to do with it, or things fell apart. I don't know what happened there, but I didn't agree with running pay-per-views when you don't have weekly TV, and what you end up doing is, okay, well, AEW gets pushed aside to promote this Ring of Honor show. And I know the audience didn't like that. There's too many champions between the two companies. And I just really feel like when he bought Ring of Honor, if the intention was not to just use it for a tape library for an eventual AEW streaming service, then you shouldn't have seen Ring of Honor until he was ready to relaunch it. I think the only positive that has come out of the Tony Khan era of Ring of Honor is the FTR Briscoe matches. Other than that, I don't see what positive has been done to the Ring of Honor brand other than that. I really don't.
Great points. And like you said, you've been a Ring of Honor fan for years. And I was one of the very few people who, for, the last 2 years of its existence, I watched Ring of Honor TV every single week. And yes, some weeks were quite mid, but a lot of weeks were great. And I truly, truly was a fan. But I cannot, despite the mess that it was in financially and even booking at times, I still think this is going to be an even bigger a mess, because I don't think anybody's going to be watching it. I think you're going to have a product with quite high production costs, higher than before. And I don't think you're going to be having as many people even watching as before, because I honestly don't know anybody who's paying this money to watch it. Because I know it's not started yet, but I haven't secured a single person. I know Soul, you bought the Honor Club subscription, but you cancelled it.
Hey, whoa!
Too much storage.
Give me the floor right now, you little cheeky shit. Right, I bought Honor Club, but I had to delete it because my phone didn't have enough memory. I have a new phone now, reinstalled Honor Club. I have now gladly purchased it, and I'm now watching Ring of Honor on my phone as I enjoy a nice wee steak. Now, going to Ring of Honor as well. You mentioned the roster, right? Ring of Honor, from what I saw when they shut down, pretty much everyone was released and gone, right? Everyone was gone. There was no Righteous being, doing stuff. There's no Righteous. There was no Silas Young. There was no everyone who was released from because they said in the press release from Sinclair, everyone was released and could do their own thing. The only thing I really saw about Ring of Honor when the whole shutdown happened was Gresham doing his world championship around the world thing, right? Everyone who was doing their thing, people got picked up by Ring of Honor, Danhausen and everyone else, and people went to other stuff. Roxy went to Impact and dropped the title to Deonna Purrazzo and then went to NXT, right? There was no roster, right? There was no roster when Tony Khan picked it up. It was scrapped. And honestly, Tony Khan was the best person to have bought this. Who else would have bought it? Billy Corgan? Would he have just made it NWA Diet? Or what would have Vince done with it? Just make
Diet
it
NWA. That's
the
the quote of the century.
What's Vince going to do with it? What Vince would have done with it? He just have it some shit
library. He would have tape librared it.
Yeah, he would have tape librared it. Would have just been some add-on on the WWE network, and or revived like ECW. Who knows? Maybe we would have got Do-Rag Vince 2 as Ring of Honor champion, right? And now with Tony Khan buying it, has it been successful? No. Has it been better than the Ring of Honor was before? I honestly would say yes. I would say it would.
No. You didn't watch it before.
I did watch it before. When Final Battle was coming up and I heard about everything going on, I decided to watch the product previously. And it was okay for what it was. Look, I will give Sinclair their props for what they did during Ring of Honor in the pandemic, paying their workers still and, making the best thing for them. Props to them for doing that. Final Battle, I was fairly entertained. And with Tony Khan under the belt, they mentioned that Death Before Dishonor was the highest, attendance gate before, for the whole thing. This is the best one they've done since then. So there has been an improvement before that. And now, Ring of Honor going back to the tapings, you got to start small. Remember, Ring of Honor and Impact before they shut down were like down below, right? Then it was WWE, AEW, and New Japan, right? And everyone else is just on the damn picking level down here, right?
I got your back here, Soul.
No, I'll get. Don't worry, you'll get to me.
No, keep going. No, I know. Keep going though. Is what I'm saying. I got your back.
Look, there's no one else who could have bought in it that could have done anything with it. It would have either gone to some shite hole who's just like, this is just a brand who has got recognition now and have that. At least Tony Khan put some effort in it to have the belts being advertised on AEW television to show it to the fans and, hey, it's still alive, it's still around, we're going to treat it well as we can, seeing to the networks and all that, hey, this is the number of company you can get, and heck, TNT and TBS and all the HBO stuff. He's like, yeah, you could have it on a show because with these streaming wars and everything, you need content that can be cheap and produced quickly to draw people in for the prices of monthly subscriptions, right? And then we've got the TV tapings coming up now. It's a good way to do it. Some people said, why not just cancel Dark or Elevation? Because people who go to AEW shows might not want to watch a Ring of Honor 1 hour show, right? So you got to try and get that Ring of Honor fan base in. You got to try and get the AEW fan base who are interested. And you've got the big names, right? And you mentioned the Briscoes and FTR, right? That has been a good version, right? That's been good.
Only highlight.
I mean, look, I'll even say that Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia has been entertaining for me. I've enjoyed what they've done as well. I've even enjoyed the embassy matches with them against Dalton Castle and the boys. There's been parts of it I've personally enjoyed. So I honestly feel, heck, we're all going to Ring of Honor in LA as well. So who knows? Well, that would be fun. I'm up for that. I mean, you guys might sleep through it and I'll take all your beers and shit and I'll enjoy it myself. But hey, that's there. But look,
you're going there for Mania. It's just that's a throw-in.
Yeah,
we're still excited about it. Whoa! Don't take it away from Soul like that.
No, that makes it sound like he's flying out just for the Ring of Honor show. Come on.
I love the Ring of Honor as an addition as well. But yeah, we're going for Mania as well. Cool. But, as always, as it is, right? But look, people shitting on Tony Khan for all this shit is absolute bollocks. And look, if anyone else thinks they could have done it better, you try and do it. You try and book a TV show that AEW has been excelling since once it started in 2019 and then buying basically a dead brand at the time and trying to boost that as well. Hey, shoot your fucking shot. I like to see you try, honestly. But look, I think people are too hard on Tony Khan. I think everything's been fine. Clark, take the fucking floor.
I got your back. Ben wants.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, right, about the Tony Khan thing, saying nobody else could have bought it or whatever. I think somebody with a lot less money than Tony Khan has could have bought it and made it a better thing. And that's not an insult to Tony Khan. That's me saying Tony Khan has a wrestling promotion. And it's difficult to own multiple wrestling promotions because every booker has their own philosophy. So if you own multiple, then one of them is just going to be a light version of the other. It's gonna be the case. You mentioned ECW and what it became under Vince. It's obviously, I don't think it's going to be to that extreme, but it's not going to be Ring of Honor anymore. It's going to be Ring of Honor under Tony Khan's vision, which is basically AEW Light.
What about Raw and SmackDown?
Is saying here.
What about Raw and SmackDown?
But they still feel the same. Come on, they still feel the same.
No, they don't. They feel shite.
No. I mean,
but I mean, does one feel bigger than the other, or do they feel like equals?
Yeah.
Well, to your theory is what I'm saying.
It's
given your theory. Do Raw and SmackDown feel like equals?
That's going to be the case. That's not the case.
Do they feel like equals or no?
Answer the question.
At this time, yeah, they do. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Wild how that works.
This is going to be. I don't think this is going to be that situation.
I hear where you're coming from, but I was just saying.
I really don't.
Okay, wait. I need these Kobe comments because that's where all this is coming from, and I'm ready to go.
I'll add on to Clarky Boy's point as well. That the only thing that feels different is NXT because that's developmental.
Raw and even then, they tried to make them an equal. Leading into 36, they tried to make them an equal. That's why they had. That's why they had Rhea and Charlotte.
It's all WWE. That wasn't under. If Tony Khan, for example, owns it and hires somebody else to take care of Ring of Honor and do it like Vince did with Triple H, I'd praise Tony Khan for doing that. I'd be like, great decision. That would make sense. It would make Ring of Honor feel different. Just like NXT felt different to everything else. But yeah, Kobe Galanzowski, producer Kobe, is in the comments saying Ring of Honor won't subscribe. Why would you cancel? You can watch it on your computer. Oh, the soul canceling. Okay.
Keep going.
Kobe's recommended to watch pre-pandemic Ring of Honor. Then he's bringing up a good point. Is it simply the fact that the gate was bigger just because of TK owns it now, and that because of the AEW fan base? And of course, if that is the case, then long term, that audience is not going to be there. That's a very short term thing because people are like, well, I want to see this. It's new. Tony Khan owns it. I saw it promoted on Dynamite. But as soon as they go, and let's be honest, he's not as big a names in Ring of Honor, obviously. But yeah.
Can I go?
And also, Kobe's also saying that he appreciates Anthony Ricciardi keeping it real and saying that FTR and the Briscoes matches were the highlights, which is undoubtedly true. And listen, I'm not here right now saying that Ring of Honor is all bad under Tony Khan. I'm not saying that. The FTR Briscoes matches were great. There's been a few other good moments throughout it. And like I said, I'm looking forward to going to the show WrestleMania weekend. I still actually don't think it would be as good as pre-Tony Khan Supercard of Honor, if I'm being completely honest. But it's still, it's the way it's gonna go. But what do you think about it all, Clark?
So you go back to the original screen here, and then we can go to me when we're gonna clip this. But I have a question further than just the SmackDown versus Raw thing, and I've been planning this for a while. I've been reading the comments. I'm sure Kobe might answer this one in the comments. But what year did ROH start?
2002.
And how many major TV deals has they had in that time?
It's as old as me.
They had HD
right.
Net.
How many major TV deals have they had?
I know they were on HD Net at one point.
HD Net? Is that like a cable add-on?
I think it's Access now. I think
Access TV. And how long did that last? How big of numbers did they do? And so the expectation when Tony Khan bought them was that they could get a TV deal. Am I wrong?
Well, that's what Tony Khan
Correct me if I'm wrong. No. But the expectation for ROH from 2002 until 2022, what is that? 20 years? I don't do math. Remember, guys. So for 20 years, the expectation was that they had a great niche audience that didn't quite garner a major network television deal. But it's weird. As soon as Tony Khan bought him, the expectation was for ROH to suddenly get a major network television deal.
Well,
and that's completely unfair.
He got TNT, but without the launch.
Yes, he very much did with AEW. The ROH brand doesn't carry enough weight to get a major TV deal. Or guess what? Over the last 20 years, they'd have got one. And so for in this 1 year to go, Tony should have got a deal. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's absurd expectation. And it's because of who bought it. The answer is that's the point that Soul made. It's because of who bought it. When Tony Khan bought it, everybody looked and goes, oh, they're going to get a network deal. They'd have got one if they earned one. They'd have got one. Of course he did. Because guess what? He's done it before and he believes he can do it. He's proven he can do it. He did it with a no-name brand. He did it with a no-name brand. He did it with a brand that had never been on TV.
And that's why people
more
thought
impressive.
TV deal.
ROH is a 20-year established brand. And he didn't do anything in 20 years to earn a television deal outside of being bought by Tony Khan. That's why the expectations were laid in the first place. We'd have been whining for the last decade. I'm a longtime ROH fan myself. We've been whining for a decade. Why aren't they on Spike? Why aren't they on Fox? Why aren't they on this network? Why aren't they on that network? We haven't been doing that. Tony Khan buys them all of a sudden. Oh, no, we need ROH on a network, don't we now?
Well, he kept hyping it.
That's where
he kept saying that.
He said it too. That's fine, by the way.
He said something he was going to do it, and he didn't do it. But it's not only that, right?
Pull it off. But at the same time,
ambition
is something to be commended.
Apart from he's taken the Ring of Honor, the black mat, all of that, what made it Ring of Honor. He's taken it and made it feel like AEW.
So if you're branding standpoint, it's a difficult transition for sure.
If you're saying it's acquisition audience is what he's after, but he's taken away all the hardcore elements of it. So then it's like, well, he's lost that audience.
So hypothetically, Ben, if someone else buys it,
audience, but he's failed.
If someone else buys it, Ben, do we still expect them to get a TV deal?
No, but I don't think that's the.
Well, here's the thing.
That's not the point.
Tony got a TV deal with AEW, which was nothing other than initials at the time. That's why people thought he would get a TV deal with Turner or be on HBO Max or maybe change Rampage into Ring of Honor. That's what the perception was, considering how much money and resources he has. People expected him to do more than sit on it for a year and then put it on Honor Club, which he already owned in the first place.
No question. But at the end of the day, Ring of Honor had 20 years to build the brand to a level beyond where they were. And they, at the end of the day, cut their whole roster and sold to Tony Khan.
Yeah.
I mean, do we know
as a business, they didn't exactly succeed.
Do we know what Ring of Honor?
Well, they had a hardcore fan base. It's a little bit like the indie band that, never gets their major deal.
I'm willing to bet that this year, well, I mean, okay, in the next 24 months, let's not even just say 12, they will lose more money than they even did in the last 24 months of it under Sinclair, this even including the pandemic.
That's only because they're going to spend more money to make it better.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out. I really don't, because I think there's going to be high production value. Nobody's going to watch it because it's behind a paywall.
So then my question would be, how else could they make the jump than by spending more money?
It should be on free. If they're going to do it the way that they're doing it, they should just decide, okay, we're just going to lose the money for the time being, and just put it on YouTube for free even until they get a TV deal. I think even that would be a way to...
They could have replaced Dark and Elevation with Ring of Honor. It's exactly what they could have done on the YouTube, and it wouldn't have cost them anything because they're already flying those people out during the same tapings of AEW. So what's the difference?
I guess the Ring of Honor brand? I guess the crowd is the
what's the difference?
I mean, come on, think about it. Look back to the past of what happened when, Vince put a WCW hour on Raw and everyone had their old little crap in their pants.
It was once.
WCW, but still, he did it.
Screw it. That could have happened again. But look, I want to say, we don't know I've never seen what the viewership was under Sinclair for Ring of Honor. Was it 10,000 or 2,000?
It was on syndication and Honor Club. I don't know what the numbers are for that.
So it's probably dog shit. I mean, what do you want them to be? Impact, where they're pulling in minuscule numbers, but they have a great roster and product because they're on a shit network. It's better than... Look, it's the future. Being on Honor Club is the future of where entertainment is going in even the next 2 years of being exclusively on streaming service. No one's going to give a shit about television in 2 or even 1 year. No one's going to give a shit.
That's true, but I still don't think anybody's going to pay $9.99 to just watch ROH TV.
And you're getting less
stuff and not pay-per-views.
You're getting less.
The network or Peacock, you can get Peacock for that price. The entire WWE catalog, WWE pay-per-views, and the entire Peacock library for the exact same price. Nobody can tell me you can justify in any way, shape, or form. The $9.99 for Honor Club is in the slightest justifiable. It's about $5 too expensive.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but hang on there. Look at what is Ring of Honor's been around for maybe 21 or 22 years, right? WWE been around for the fucking dark ages, right? They've got whole loads of shit that could be chucked on there. Documentaries. They've got documentaries. They've got other brands. They've got WCW's catalog as well for the whole 99. That's fair. They've got a whole load of shit. For Ring of Honor, they've only got their own stuff, past stuff, and even a few little playlists of stuff as well, right? You can't expect them to be on the level.
That doesn't justify $9.99 then, Soul.
It doesn't justify at all. You can be oh, okay, well, ethically that should be the case. But ethical reasons don't make people take their money out of their pocket.
I paid $60 a charity. For every WWE show for 20 years.
Look, if people can pay all this money for pay-per-view every single couple months
in your house,
you can afford $9.99 for Ring of Honor, right? If you're paying all this high money for pay-per-views of all these random indie companies and even the big ones as well, you can afford $99 for Ring of Honor Club, honestly.
$120 for weekly TV and the old tape library is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I paid $59.99 for a WWE in your house show where the lights went out during it in the late 90s.
They weren't that high back then. They were $30.
They're okay, $30. Either way, the one show. We're worried about $9.99 a month.
But again, it's different time now. People aren't spending as much money in that. It's true. People are being tighter with their money than they were. I mean, obviously, inflation and all that. But people are being a bit tighter with their money than they were before. Mm-hmm. And honestly, right now, when there's so many streaming services, and that's the thing that people are canceling them because there's too many. And Ring of Honor really think they can enter this. Tony Khan really thinks he can enter this with offering not only not as much past content, but not offering all the current content. It's you can watch this weekly show, which builds up to the pay-per-views. However, I'm not going to give you the pay-per-view. You've got to pay more money for that. You're paying money to pay more money.
Not even a discount. Ring of Honor actually did that because there were different tiers with Honor Club. But all the tiers, if you didn't get the pay-per-views included, you at least got a discount. I think it was a 50% discount if you bought the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you are right. Yeah. So you have 20 seconds. You have 20 seconds.
Fine. Look, I'll say here, maybe it's contract stuff as well because Honor Club wasn't up until recently, and they had to get the shows out there. Maybe they made a contract with Fight, and it's locked in there, and maybe it's a year thing or just a couple of years thing or whatever until they can actually get the pay-per-views on Honor Club. So yeah, it's probably a contract thing, right, for this whole thing. And I bet as soon as that's up, they can get it on Honor Club.
Ring of Honor got them on there, and they weren't fight.
Yeah, that's true. Right, anyway, guys, that is all we have time for on today's broadcast. But thank you for joining us. It's been a hectic episode, but a great one at that. I will be back tomorrow with, who am I with tomorrow? Soul and Kobe. It's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to be giving our Elimination Chamber predictions, while Clark is me back on Saturday with, not with Anthony, with Ignacio and Chaos giving their predictions for Elimination Chamber. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
I'm going to shout at you